Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 31 of Expand the Conversation with Jillian podcast. On today's episode, I have on Stephanie Lawler. She is the founder of Warrior Fit and a woman's health coach. And I've been following her and kind of in her space, I'd say for, at least 5 to 6 years. And it's been really cool to watch her journey from being really fit to dealing with some injuries. And, that's kind of everything we talk about is her finding balance in her own fitness journey and health journey. And we talk a little bit about doggos. They're definitely there for the episode. We talk about hormones and how they can influence mood, focus, and energy. We talk about the link between gut health and behavior in kids. Balancing fitness, rest, and mindset during periods and perimenopause, the ripple effect of modeling healthy habits for family. And she's just such a delight to be around, and I hope that everyone enjoys this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it. I can't talk well today, but oh well. But I hope everyone enjoys the episode and I can't wait to hear what you guys think. Let's dive into it. All right, on today's episode, I have with me my friend Stephanie Lawler. She is the owner of Warrior Fit and a health and wellness coach. Thank you so much for being here with me today, Stephanie.
Jillian, thank you so much for having me. And I have to say, ignore the background noise. Hopefully, it won't be too obnoxious. I've got my bulldog down here. Finny is down here. She's my coworker, and she's usually very lazy. But because we're doing a podcast, she's going to have all kinds of wild rips, I'm sure. So we'll just try to ignore that today.
I love it. She's like, I want to be in the room where it happens. It's funny because my dogs are never in the office with me. Usually one of them is, but they both like made a point to come in today. They're like, we're all involved.
Want to be part of it.
They do. I love it. No, it's okay. So how are you today? Let's start there.
Yeah, I'm great. I'm in Georgia, and we are having this fake fall. So
Mm.
it was 58 degrees this morning when I went and walked, and it just gave you the feeling that fall might be here. Of course, next week I'm sure it'll be 90 and 100% humidity, but for now we're enjoying it. So it's lovely.
I love that. I know it's been a little bit cooler here in Texas just because it's been raining so much, which has been great, but it's definitely like always a lie. And probably by this afternoon it'll be like 105 again. And it's like, thanks. Thanks for the hope.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Yeah. I love the summer, but I'm ready for the season change. I really am.
Yeah, absolutely. And the end of the year always just is so vibey for me. For a long time, I didn't like it because of just dealing with like seasonal depression. I really realized that like when the sun's around, I feel much better.
True.
But it's like, it's just, there's so much other things, and I've kind of like embraced that more and more every year. So I'm looking forward to it too.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Absolutely. So I always ask 3 questions to every guest. The first question is, what is your favorite way to connect with yourself daily?
So my favorite way to connect with myself daily is taking my morning walk. This has really become a crucial part of my morning routine. About, I would say 4 years ago, I really started to make some shifts in what I do first thing in the morning. As a small business owner, I absolutely used to be the kind, and a wife and a mom, used to be the kind that the second the alarm went off, which was my phone next to my bed, I would immediately jump up, turn the alarm off, and start looking, right? Where did my attention need to be focused today? I'm checking emails, I'm seeing texts that have come in, I'm checking my app that I use for my business. And really, before my feet would even hit the floor, I just felt like, I always use this phrase, chum of the sea, but that's what I felt like, just being thrown to the sharks. And I was starting my day feeling so overwhelmed and just annoyed with everything. That's how I was first having, time with my husband and with my girls, is just in this ramped up state. And so I really thought, why? Why am I allowing this to happen? I control this. That's one of the beauties of owning my own business. I can dictate how my days go, and this is not how I want my day to go. So I made it a point to get an actual alarm clock, put my phone out of the room, and just really change up what those first hour, maybe even two, look like. I don't do this crazy elaborate thing where it's standing on my head and cold plunge and contrast therapy and all this. People that do that, that's great. Mine's really simple though. It just starts with gratitude. Really, before I even open my eyes, I just pray and I'm so thankful for the wonderful things in my life. I visualize what I want my day to look like. And then in the last 4 or 5 weeks, have started with a statement, something wonderful is going to happen to me today. And I say that same
Mm.
statement before I go to bed at night. And I just start that day with anticipation of wonderful, beautiful things. So that really parlays right into get up, have some quiet time, spend time with my husband and the dogs, and then straight out into a walk. And we're very blessed. We live in a really beautiful part of Georgia. We've got nature trails that weave through our neighborhood. And I just take that time every morning, 45 minutes. Don't look at my phone. Just absorb the sounds of nature and the sights and the sun on my body. And that's really the way that I'm able to connect back with myself, and really start the day with intention and start the day feeling like I've given to me before I want and need to give to my clients, to my family, to all the other parts of my life.
I love that so much. I love a lot of all of that, a lot of all of it, but a few things like the simplicity of it, right? Like where it doesn't have to be overcomplicated because even, I talk to some of my epigenetics clients with like supplementation. They're like, oh, I have to have this, have to have this, have to have this. And it's like, it's really a lot simpler than that. Like, let's pull back, let's start over. And that, like, setting the intention before you even get out of bed is so important for people. And I think we forget about it, because it's like, okay, what do I have to do? I have to wake up, get ready, and do all this stuff. And so it's really beautiful that you said that and just having that time for your walk. A lot of people forget that walking can be a form of meditation. And so the way you mentioned, like not having your phone and just paying attention to nature, and I know you receive signs from Milo whenever you're out in nature. And so it's so beautiful to like take the time to really like be a part of the planet. And I think people get so like consumed with all of the to-do lists and like, okay, this, that they're like, existing is a thing that you can do too. And it's so necessary for our nervous system. So I love that like shift you made for yourself. And it is such a beautiful way to be able to connect with yourself?
Now it is, and one of the important things that I always try to remember is when you wake up, those brain waves, those theta waves are so impressionable. So whatever you're experiencing in those first few minutes to, hour of waking is truly going to have a bearing on your day and the
Mhm.
mindset that you carry with you and the way that you perceive the world. And so being able to take a little bit of time to recenter and get my brain right before I have any of these other interactions. And it's even simple things. My husband and I try to take that time together in the mornings, and sometimes we talk, sometimes we just sit there and quiet. But one of the things that I've really been passionate about is if we do talk during that time, I want it to be really happy, positive, joyful things. I don't want to get into like serious conversations and woe is me and oh, I had this bad dream. Like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to be exposed to it. I don't want to open up social media and or the news or anything and have that really make an impression on my mindset for the day because I am very much an empath and I do take a lot of energy from what's around me. And so I have to be really careful with guarding that and having a little bit more protection over that energy, especially in the mornings.
Yeah. And it's really important. And I think, that's one thing I teach my clients is like that energetic hygiene of like, okay, what are you doing to be able to protect yourself? Like you're waking up and you're immediately stressed. Even this morning, I think we woke up like 30 minutes late. We're all exhausted. And I was like, well, usually I have like 20, 30 minutes to myself before anyone else is like up or around me. And I was just like a blob. My brain was just still like recalibrating and waking
Right.
up. And my partner was like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, my brain's not braining. I didn't get that like extra 20, 30 minutes before everybody else was up. So I'm just like my brain's still going. And
Sure.
he was like, oh, okay, because it's like it's a completely different version of me. And so it's so important to connect with yourself in the morning and really like notice the energetic shield that you're putting up as well as an empath to say like, hey, I'm not receiving any of this. Like, I don't want it. I don't need it in my space right now. And so we're going to have a good day, and that's just what it's going to be. And that way, later, if harder conversations do come up, it's easier to deal with them.
Absolutely. No, you're exactly right.
I love it. So, the second question is, what is your favorite thing right now? And it can be anything like food, something tangible or physical, an activity, anything at all.
Gosh, one of my favorite things right now is probably the 30 to 45 minutes that I get to spend in the gym with my daughter.
Hmm.
So, for your listeners who may not know, I am a mom. My girls are 22 and 19, but my youngest is special needs. So, she's got cerebral palsy and intellectual disability. She graduated in May from high school. And so, we're in kind of a holding pattern trying to figure out what her next chapter looks like. It's a little bit different when it's not so traditional. So, exercise has always been really difficult for her, just with the cerebral palsy. Her muscles are always firing, even though she doesn't have the spasticity. That's just kind of what's bubbling under the surface. And so she gets fatigued really, really easily. So this has always been kind of my, non-active child. She doesn't love movement. She loves to swim. And I think that that's great for her body, but obviously seasonal. So about, I don't even know, it's probably getting close to a year. She started to show some interest in going to the gym. I mean, I go 4 or 5 times a week. And I was fascinated that this was something that she wanted to do. And so the personal trainer side of me wanted to, get so excited and get in there and have her do this and let me teach you this. And I realized with her, I just needed to step back and let her get comfortable there and let her figure things out. And, sort of showed her, okay, on these machines, there's a picture and there's a diagram and help to get her in kind of a routine. And she's picked that up. And it's been awesome. In the beginning, it was really just about setting the habit and getting her comfortable. And now she really is making some progress. And I see her trying to challenge herself and moving the weight up a little bit or, trying a new machine that she hasn't before, asking for help. And that's been really good for me because we face it, even working in this space, go through seasons where I just don't want to go. I don't have the motivation to go. I don't have the drive to go. We hit perimenopause, and that is an even bigger issue. And so it's been really nice to have her company and really to have her there with me, because there are lots of days where I probably wouldn't go if it were not for her. So been enjoying that, and it's interesting because it's not even really time that we're together. She's doing her thing, I'm doing my thing, but I just get so proud when I look over and see her doing something that a couple of years ago I never thought was a possibility. So it's one of my favorite things right now. It's a simple little thing, but it makes my mama heart happy, and it's the kick in the pants that I need a lot of days too.
I love that. And that's so beautiful. Like, just, man, because I've been following you or like in your space for a while. I'm like, let me do math real quick. It's not my strong suit. Maybe like 7-ish
I was
years,
thinking,
right? And so it's so cool to see like that progress that she's made for herself, right? And so it's so beautiful to see that. And my son, he started playing football this year, and so he's been going to the gym and he's finally like a lot more active. And so he's really like excited and really loving it. So I'm like you, where I'm like, yes, let's do
great.
it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have to calm down sometimes. Like I have to calm myself because I'm like, you can do this. And it's so beautiful to see when our kids finally like pick up what we've been doing for ourselves and they're like, huh, what's that about?
Great.
Let's see how it goes.
I think it's also so interesting though to see how they apply that to their own lives, because it's never going to be the same, right? But you start to see your own influence as a parent and how they weave that into the things that they love or something that they're comfortable with. And that was always one of my biggest drivers as a mom, especially of girls, because there's so much influence on what beauty is and what strength looks like. And that was always something I wanted my girls to be aware of, that strong was beautiful and
Mm.
capable was beautiful. And, it wasn't just these stereotypical things that we see. And I was very, very blessed because Hannah's sport was swimming, and she has a perfect build for it. She's 5'8", she's muscular, she's broad shouldered. And it was a really healthy sport for her because it was not one that emphasized a thin life body or as skinny as you can get, or any of those sort of things that we see that can be a bit dysfunctional in some of these other sports for young women. It was one that really applauded strength and health. And it was always so interesting to me. We'd sit there to swim meet, and you know, the kids were playing just youth sports halftime, and all the snacks come out, and it is just nothing but a junk fest. And it was so different when she started swimming. You see these kids, and we're at the pool 4 or 5 hours at a rip, and they've got protein, and they've got fruit, and they've got vegetables. And maybe it was just the group that we were with, but even the parents, same way. There wasn't anyone running out going to McDonald's to get kids food. Between their events, it was everyone's getting food out of their cooler, and just a really healthy sport, at least for her here. And I was so thankful for that, but I think that that's something that was always a goal. I wanted to make sure that by the time my girls were grown and whatever their path was, they knew how to care for themselves in mind, body, and spirit, that they understood being active and being outside and feeding your body well and acknowledging when you need to rest and taking care of your nervous system and addressing all of those things. It's a lot. It's a lot of pressure as a parent to try to be that example, but infuse those into your own life so that it spills over as habits for your kids and just the way that they know to live as their lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And, to build those habits for ourselves, right, is the first hump, right? And like in my own journey, like I have always worked out my entire life. I always felt really good about it, but there was always a touch of body dysmorphia for me. And so always feeling like I was huge because I was so tall and broad shouldered, just like you were saying. And, I look at pictures of myself in high school and I'm like, I was so thin. And I'm like, what was wrong with me, right? But now I
Right.
like look at myself and I'm like, there's no way. But even just getting movement for me is still something that I'm constantly like, hey, I know this is good for you. Like, I know I'm resisting it, but like, how can I do it that it feels good in my body? And, having a boy, it's been a completely different, like, he worries about what his body is shaped like. He's a bigger guy, and it's one of those things where I'm just like, if you eat right, and I never forced like my dietary restrictions extremely on him. And I was like, hey, like, but if you ever want to know, because I didn't, he's only 15 right now. So we're still in that like final phase of like, he actually wants to know and wants to
Oh,
care about it. And so it's so interesting because as a woman and like having dealing with my own body issues and then having him and like him being in football, he plays center. So like the big guys, right? He's going up against really big guys and they're like, eat, eat, eat. And so he's looking into like what professional football players eat like before a game. And I'm like, okay, like let's break it down though. Let's break it down like what they're eating, but it's pure trash. And so I'm like, how can we get you these calories in a healthier way? And since I've done his genes and everything, like we just kind of went with that. I'm like, you need protein, fats, carbs. Like you do not need to eat. Well, I think one of the centers had like a sandwich and a freaking 3 bowls of cereal. And I was like, that's not for you. I'm
right.
like, let's see if you can just like eat a bunch of olive oil or something that's very olive oil forward, that's protein and like really get you involved with that. And so I just want to say that it's so beautiful to see you as an example in the wellness space, not only for your daughters, but for other women, because of the fact that like the standards from, when I've grown up from the 90s to now of like what your body should look like is absolutely insane. And the consistency that you need to be able to show up because I was so into fitness in my, I'd say late 20s that I was so thin and I was like, I look amazing. And then I'm like looking at pictures and I was like, I look like I'm sick. Like, what? Where was the balance in it, And so being able to like listen to yourself and find that motivation, but also say, like, hey, maybe I'm in my luteal phase right now. And so I'm going to really like lean back and see what my body needs instead of forcing like that exercise.
It's such a balance, and I deal with those body dysmorphia things too. I just turned 50 in April, and I will say in the last couple of years, this whole hormonal shift has hit me and hit me hard. And it happened so slowly that I didn't recognize it. I thought, okay, age wise, I'm absolutely in perimenopause, but I still have a cycle and everything is normal in that way. And so you just start kind of dismissing the symptoms because you think, okay, well, I'm tired. Well, sure, I own my own business. I have a very busy life. Of course, I'm tired. Or I don't have a whole lot of drive for this. Well, right, nobody does. And so it's been so interesting to walk through this journey and understand that when I go back and look at pictures when I was, top shape, 35 and low body fat, it's easy to go back to that and want that, but I have to really reconnect with what did it take for me to maintain that. And I'm short, I'm only 5'3", so 5 pounds on me looks very different than it might on somebody else. So I'm carrying 5 to 7 pounds more, when I was probably in my best shape, but my body composition has changed a lot. And so I can get kind of down on myself, like, man, I wish I looked like that again. But the reality of it is that was about the time I was starting to make this transition out of teaching, out of education, and into this health and wellness space. And there was a lot of pressure I put on myself to feel as if I needed to look the part. And you're around all these people, and fitness is what they do, and they're fitness influencers, and they're 20 years old that you feel like you're competing against, and they've never had kids. Their bodies haven't had a whole lot of change to them. And maybe they're natural athletes, have been their entire lives. And so you walk into this space and you feel like the elephant in the room. I'm 15, 20 years older than a lot of you. I've had 2 kids. So it took a lot for me to get my body looking that way. And I think I forget sometimes the sacrifices that I had to make, and in the gym 2 hours at 9 o'clock at night, and saying no to everything. I literally remember birthdays for my kids where I wouldn't have even considered taking a bite of cake, or my own birthday would not have done anything at all. God forbid, wouldn't have had a glass of wine. And I think that that's the thing that people forget. And the same as you, when you go back and you look at those pictures and you think, man, I was so thin then. What did it actually take for you to get to that point? And that's without all of the factors of age and having kids and hormones and life and stress and all the things that we know now, but just really being able to kind of make peace with that. I'm so proud of what my body looked like at that age. I'm so proud of myself for the work that it took to maintain that. But it's also okay to step into a different version of yourself as we age. And it's not to say you let it go. I'm a big advocate of we've got to stay healthy. We have to stay mobile. We want to age well. That's going to obviously parlay into how we age. So making sure that we are doing the things to take care of ourselves, but there becomes a little bit of a shift where you start to acknowledge those other parts of your life, that maybe it's okay to not kill it if you're in your luteal phase and you're absolutely exhausted, or you've had a really trying, stressful day. And the last thing that your body actually needs from a nervous system standpoint is to go add on a really intense workout or whatever the case may be. And so just having some grace. And I think that that's a good word, but it often gets a little bastardized because we can kind of float that line where it just becomes an excuse and everything falls under the umbrella of giving myself grace, when really you're just making excuses. And that's something I always tell my clients: you're the only one that knows the truth there. You're the only one that knows which one is which. But I think that I definitely give myself a little bit more grace in the right ways than I did before, where it was so all or nothing and nothing in the middle ground. It's not a place that you can sustain, not well, for very long, honestly.
Yeah, it can be really stifling. And it's so funny because I think a lot of people, if not most, that I've talked to in the wellness space have had that moment of like, you go from one end of the spectrum where you're like, it has to be this way and everything, like I can't do anything. And even, for myself, a great example is like, I was gluten-free for 5 years and I was like, don't even come near me. I'm not eating it, like not doing it. And then did more research and I'm like, okay, there's no glyphosate in the flour in Europe, right? Like, and I don't have a gluten issue genetically. So it was like, let's see how I feel. And so I ate treats in Paris. Like I could not say no in Paris.
No way.
And so I was like, I feel great. So now I've gotten to the point where like it's more work for me, but I get Italian flour, I have my own sourdough starter, and I just make the bread here. And so and I got to the point where I was like, I'm so tired of eating shitty bread. Like
Right.
I'm just over it because it's like sometimes you go somewhere and you're like, I just want a hamburger. Like I'm a human and it's delicious and it's like not bad for you, not the worst for you, but it's good. And so I was like, it's just kind of shifting those things. And so even looking at myself from when I first started really diving back into my health, probably in 2020, it's like looking at it now and seeing like where I've kind of allowed a little wiggle room,
Right.
where it's like, even if we, like, if my boyfriend has a piece of cake or something, and I'm like, okay, I'll have a little bit, but like take the digestive enzyme before so I'm not super bloated and like in pain. But it's so interesting to see how that happens. So I always love to hear people's like story of like, no, it was like exactly like this. And then able to like shift into like a little bit more balance and, like you said, grace for ourselves, but not to the point of like, oh, here I am, like it's another piece of cake. How did
Yes,
it get here? When like you're the one that bought it at the grocery store.
absolutely. That's so funny. I just had a moment just like that. Over the weekend, we've got a cabin up in North Georgia, and we were up there and we found this local bakery. We were actually looking for bread. So on the hunt for some good local bread, couldn't find it, but happened in this bakery, and they had all of these just delicious sweet treats. And I'm not a huge sweets eater. I could put the hurt on any kind of bag of like sour candy. Give me Nerds, Sour Patch Kids. I could just destroy those. My husband and girls are more of the bakery, cakes and cookies kind, but we walk into this bakery and she had homemade oatmeal cream pies and they looked so good. And I was like, let's put one of those in the bag. And the 40-year-old me, the 35-year-old me would never have considered that. I would have honestly been judging anyone who was buying that. I probably would have even walked into the shop. But I think sometimes we forget that it's more than just about the food. And that can be in two different directions. We can use that very negatively where it's a coping mechanism and it's something that we're just going to, but there is also, and I think European cultures do such a good job of this, so that's a part of the culture. That's part of the memory, the experience. And that was the thing. Like that's one of the memories I remember from the weekend, how excited Neely was. And they had something gluten-free and we found this cute little independent bakery and this woman was so excited to have us in. And, there was a memory that was attached with it. And I did not go home and eat all of it. I had a couple of bites and I was like, wow, that was really good. And was done with that. But again, just that shift more into the middle where I could go out, I could enjoy that. We had a fun time that day, but it wasn't me sitting in the corner, chowing down this 1,000-calorie, delicious oatmeal cream pie, but then beating myself up about it. It
Mm.
was have a little bit of it and felt good about it. And then I was done. And that takes time to get to that point. It really does.
Yeah, it does. And it's truly freedom once you get there. Like it's that like I can do this and it's okay. And even back to the Paris example, like the first couple days, there was this little patisserie right outside of our hotel. So we'd like get up, like go get a little treat. Like one day I had savory, one day I had sweet. It was perfect. And like, but it got to the point where I was like, I'm done with bread. Like I'm over it. Like my body got to the point where I was like, all right, we don't need this anymore. And so I stopped. I wasn't just going to keep indulging because I was there.
Sure.
But I was like, I'm satisfied. Do I think about that patisserie every single day now? Absolutely. But it's okay. I'll just have to go back. Like, gives me a reason.
That's right. Another reason to go back.
Um, all right. So the final question that I have planned for the episode is, what is a topic that you think needs to be expanded on?
I'm so in the throes of female health right now, just with my own journey, hormone journey. And I love that this is becoming more of an outspoken topic, but I really just feel like the disadvantage women are at currently in this perimenopausal, menopausal state. So much bad research from the Women's Health Initiative back in the 90s that women have suffered silently for so long without real alternatives. I think this is a topic that we just need to be exploring more as women. And it doesn't mean that everyone is going to make the same decision. I just did a whole live last night about my hormone replacement therapy journey. Right now, I'm just replacing testosterone because mine was literally unreadable. And I'm sure the decline has been happening. And that's what's led to this feeling as if the dimmer switch is just a little bit dimmer each day, because that's such a hormone of vitality and of drive and motivation. And everyone just wants to always think testosterone, sex hormone, sex drive, right? But there's so much vitality in Zest for Life. It's cardioprotective, it's neuroprotective, it's bone density, lean muscle protective. And, in that we've got such connection between metabolic health and the amount of lean muscle that we carry. It's just something that's dismissed, and women age and they become frail and they're at a 30% chance of risk of death if they break a hip. 10% chance of dying from sepsis from a UTI. And this doesn't have to be this way. So,
Mm.
I feel like there's such frustration from the women that I deal with that are just dismissed by doctors and OBGYNs because they are not trained well enough, to know that there are options. And they've also been at the mercy, of course, of big pharma and insurance, and that plays such a huge role in things. And so it's a shame that we don't have the same options as men. The accessibility. I have gotten into so many conversations, heated conversations with male coaches who want to look at women in our demographic and just say, well, they can't lose weight because they're not disciplined enough, or their calories are not low enough, or they're just being lazy. Stop drinking the glass of wine every night and maybe you could lose weight. I mean, I've seen such disgusting things, especially on social media, from unfortunately a lot of men who just are not educated. And my comment back to them is always, come talk to me when your testosterone is unreadable.
Mm.
For one, it would never be that way. Even at your lowest, it's never going to be the lows that we feel. And if it were, you would immediately go to your doctor and you would be put on testosterone replacement therapy for the rest of your life if you so chose. And it's so interesting because it's easy to make those kinds of judgments when you're not in it, and that this is the space that I work in. It's been really difficult for me to overcome that the last couple of years when I've had no motivation, no drive at all to go to the gym, when that used to be the place that I loved and something I truly enjoyed. It's really taken everything in me to get there. And, big credit to my daughter for deciding that she wanted to do that, because I probably would have just fallen off completely. But women not understanding how our bodies are changing because we're not educated on that. There's not enough conversation about what happens as you enter perimenopause and menopause. And face it, if we live to an average lifespan, we're spending more of our lifetime in those years at that stage than we are in our fertile years. And so to really have no access to information, no good, credible information, so frustrating. And just woman after woman I hear where she's gaining all this weight, things that she used to be able to do to rectify that don't work anymore. She is having a hard time getting off the couch, or she's depressed, or she feels so anxious. And the best any doctor wants to do, from what I hear, is just throw synthetic birth control at them, prescribe them anti-anxiety, antidepressants, and good luck. And it's no wonder when you start looking at the statistics how divorce happens in this age bracket of women. Female initiated divorce is at its highest. Suicide is at its highest. Suicidal ideation highest. So there's a lot of things that are happening to our bodies, to our minds, to our well-being that we just don't understand. And we're so passed off by the people that we feel like we should be able to entrust with our care, our, OBGYNs or our primary care doctors. And to just feel like you're not getting any answers is incredibly frustrating. So I love that this is a topic that is becoming more popularized, and we're seeing more female practitioners speaking out about this. I think we're going to have a good shift, but it's going to take some time.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. I honestly kind of was already feeling that this was going to go in a hormone direction today. And I love it because I truly feel like as women or young girls, like they are just not taught about a period and what exactly is happening in your body, like the work that puts into it. And then when you talk about men and bring them into the picture, like no clue.
Um,
So my partner now, like I really started going deep into my hormones once I had my genes done. And I like genetically am more likely to have low testosterone. Like it's just something that I'm going to deal with. So at some point in my life, I'm already like, okay, we'll get there. Like once I've tried everything naturally and it's just not moving the needle anymore, like cool. I'm okay with doing hormone replacement therapy because I don't want to, like, I know what it feels like when it's really low. And so allowing myself to like go through that, I use a period tracker app. I've personally never been on like hormonal birth control. I had an IUD for a long time and that definitely affected me. But it was one of those things that like, so now I'm just tracking it naturally. So when my partner and I first started dating, like I was like, nope, I tracked my cycle. Like if you want to see why I'm feeling a certain way, like download the app. Like
right.
he can follow along. And so even this week, like I am in my luteal phase and I'm just like exhausted. Like my son's in high school, so we got to get up at 5:30 anyway. And then we had his open house last night, so we were at the school until almost 8. And I'm just like, I am beat. I'm like, don't talk to me. I'll have a nap later today. Like, don't judge me. Like, this is what I need. And so he even said to me yesterday, he's like, I had no idea like what any of that meant for a woman until I was dating you. And I was like, it's not just like, oh, her cycle's here and now she's being a total bitch.
Right.
Like, it's not that at all. And honestly, PMS isn't normal.
No.
Like, people talk about like, oh, well, it's normal right before my period. I started taking Elix a few years ago. It's a blend of Chinese herbs that you take a quiz and they kind of design it for you. And it's really helped me. Like I've noticed a huge difference in my PMS symptoms. Like before, like someone even chewed it like near me in the same room, I'm like, that's it, you're dead. Like I'm
Yep.
done. And so it's one of those things where it's like it's made such a huge difference for me and like being able to be more human in this stage where it's like, okay, like before I was uncomfortable bloating, like I dealt with some cramps and it was just not good. And so allowing myself to kind of make that shift and educating myself on it because a few years ago I was diagnosed with adenomyosis, which is like the opposite of endometriosis. And so my doctor's like, yeah, we can I can he wanted to give me this like super old school antibiotic. He was like, you just like can't go into the sun. I'm like, what? Like, I'm sorry, what's gonna happen? Like, I'm not taking that. That's usually my go-to with antibiotics. Like, unless it's something that like, okay, I absolutely need to, like, I'm gonna try other avenues first. And that's my personal decision, right? But when he said that to me, I was like, that does not sound like it's something that could be beneficial to my body. So I end up doing some research on my own, and I was having bananas in my smoothies every single day. And apparently, the bananas' contents were really affecting my hormones and my uterus. And so I took them out. I was eating a lot of like low acidic foods because they were saying that could make a big difference too. And it completely cleared up. Like I was dealing with a ton of pain and then it just went away.
Yeah. It's something that's so interesting to me, and same thing. It's so frustrating to me in traditional Western medicine that there's so little conversation. There's no conversation about anything lifestyle or dietary. Everyone's first move is just throw a pill at it, throw a pill at it. We both know a million stories, right? But it's so interesting. One of the things that I have been dealing with now that I'm replacing testosterone is obviously having labs done just to kind of stay on top of where things are. And, you start doing one thing and it really does truly affect everything in the body. Everything is in such coordination. And so adding in testosterone there's an increase in red blood cells. There's an increase in hematocrit. It's natural. It's no different really than someone who lives at a higher elevation and some of their natural raises. Um, but one of the other things that happen is through all this testing, I found out that my iron was normal, but my ferritin is very low. Who
Mm.
knew? And I don't have any baseline for it because I've never had ferritin done before. I've had iron tested before, but never ferritin. So I don't really know what my natural trend is. But in that mine was so low, I really started going back and digging into my diet. And, I think that's one of the benefits of tracking your food. It's monotonous, it's tedious, most people hate it, but you get good data out of it. You get such good understanding of these connections that you can make, right? So when I start looking back historically, 6 months back of what I eat, I feel like I eat a ton of red meat. My husband shot an elk a year ago. We've got a full freezer full of ground elk and steaks and everything else. But when I could actually go back and look and see what my daily iron intake was, it was like 6, 7. We're supposed to eat about 100, or I'm sorry, about 18 mgs a day equivalent of, and I was so low. And I thought, well, yeah, no wonder my stores are low. Your total iron can be high, but those stores are so low because I'm really depleted. And maybe that's part of why I feel tired and, all those other symptoms. But I guarantee, had I walked into a regular practitioner with those labs, they would have flipped out. They would have immediately said, go get an iron transfusion, start intaking ferritin supplementation. And it's not to say that I wouldn't consider those things, but let's look at other things first. Why wouldn't we dive into what my diet looks like and try to start building that? And what's so interesting is over 4 weeks, I kind of did a self experiment and started making sure I was hitting 18 to 20 milligrams of iron a day, went back and retested on my own through LabCorp. And I brought my ferritin up 8 more points just in 4 weeks, which is actually pretty good for such a short period of time. It takes a long time to rebuild those stores. but it's always so interesting because to your point about the antibiotics, we'll just take this. Well, let's look at some of the things that we're doing as a lifestyle or that we're eating or the supplements that we're taking, because I think sometimes we can get into that phase too, where we're taking so many supplements, we don't know why. And then we've never tested to see what our own levels are. Let's supplement in a way that's more specific to our bodies and what our bodies need individually, instead of just canvassing it with any old thing. So yeah, super interesting.
It is. And so the ferritin thing, that is a genetic factor. Like if someone can have higher like active iron serum levels and lower ferritin. So that does play into it as well. Just a fun fact.
Interesting.
But also like it's wild to me how people look at Western medicine doctors and say, oh, they know everything when they've not even done like a semester of nutrition. And like I was in school for nutritional sciences, and then I got to the point where I was like, it's not for me. I'm not here to prescribe anything. Like this is because in some of the nutrition classes I took, it's like they're like, oh, just have a variety of like food. And they're like, a piece of pizza with some veggies on it. That's a whole balanced meal. And I was like,
So
I have things to say. But also, like, with what I know about genes and everybody being so like specific, because yes, there are some people that you're going to find in the world that's like, oh, okay, like, yeah, that works for me too. But then there's others like I don't want to say an anomaly, but I'm not with the average human where I don't need as much protein as most people do.
sure.
And so, and I've always seen it. I was a vegetarian for 4 years and I felt great. Like it's little things like that where people go vegan and they feel like trash. And it's like there could be genetic factors that play into it that they're like, it's not good for them at all.
Right.
And so it's so interesting, like when doctors, like you go in and I mean, we know why. You and I know why.
Of
Some
course.
people listening to this might know why. They're just going to the prescribed first instead of let's look at the actual problem. But it's really cool, like being able to experiment on yourself, right? And I think as wellness practitioners or coaches, that's something that we're constantly doing of like, okay, let me do this and see how I feel. And even for myself with supplements, like I've been drinking Organifi green juice for like probably 4 years. Like I'm obsessed with it. So good. And I like stopped. I was like, I'm gonna stop for a little bit and see how I feel. I just added it back in today and I drank it and I was like, that made a huge difference with how exhausted I was feeling. Like, and there's ashwagandha in there. Like, so there's the nervous system report. There's also the gut health support and all this stuff. And so I drank it and I am like, within 5 minutes, I was like, oh, I feel so good. And so I always like suggest to people, I'm like, if you're taking things and like maybe doing your genes or working with a coach isn't like ideal for you right now, like take something out and then add it back in and see how you feel. Like,
Yeah.
see if it's actually moving the needle for you because so many people are like, oh, well, do this, depending on the influencer or like what they've taken for themselves and all of these things. And it's like it can get so expensive so fast.
Right.
And then if you're still going to your Western medicine doctor saying, this isn't working, what can I do? Like just add more money on top of it and then something else you're going to have to take.
Right. No, it can get exhaustive, and I think I definitely have been in that cycle where I feel like, oh, that turmeric, someone said that's great to take. Resveratrol, I'll take that. Zinc, I should take this. Quercetin, and all of a sudden I'm taking all these things. I don't really know why. I don't really know if my body needs them. And so it was really interesting. Before I had my first good true set of labs done before starting TRT, I stopped everything for like a week. I wanted my labs to be a true baseline of where I was. So I stopped everything. And that was in that period where I was not taking anything before labs. I actually heard Dr. Ben Lynch. He owns a company called Seeking Health, but he's a great physician. And that's one of the things he wrote a great book called Dirty Genes. And that's one
Hmm.
that he suggests doing too. At some point, stop taking everything that you can, right? And see how you feel. Let your body be the one to dictate what's actually working best for you. And the exact same advice is start adding things back in one at a time And some of those things almost instantly you'll take and you feel significantly better, like with the Organifi green juice, or you stop taking something and you take it and you're like, that didn't make me feel so good. And, your body is just such an incredible machine and gives you such good feedback if you can get to that place where you're in tune and you can listen enough
Mhm.
to take that advice.
Absolutely. And I think that's something else in my own journey that I've had to learn because I was so disconnected for so long because of certain traumas I had been through that like all of the feedback I was getting was outside of myself,
Right.
right? Like, take this, do this, do this. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of all over the place. And so I didn't even know what was what, right? And so being able to connect back in with myself. And so even now, like, if there's the smallest shift, I'm like, ooh, that's not it, or that is it, right? And especially, when we talk about hormones and being able to feel that difference, because, like you said, you kind of start to feel a little different, and it's not like a huge, like, oh no, night and day. And you're just like, oh, this is normal now. It's fine. I'm 36, and so it's like I'm flirting with the edge of perimenopause, and I'm just kind of like, okay, like, gonna start really looking at my testosterone, do what I can, and kind of see when that decision needs to be made, because I don't want to let it go on too long and then feel like absolute trash, because again, as a business owner, like, I was talking to my partner this morning. I was like, got to build a couple back end like admin things today. And I was just like, oh, if I don't do it, no one
Right.
will.
That's right. That's right. No, it is.
It's,
It's the kind of thing where unfortunately I think we realize those things too late, and I could have tracked my testosterone over these last couple of years and watched the decline. But even at that, really did make the connection because same as you, I'm doing all the natural things. I'm taking supplements that naturally increase testosterone. I'm lifting weights. I'm consuming enough protein. I'm prioritizing sleep, managing my stress, right? Everything that classically textbook tells you to do to try to buffer that. And it worked for a while. And I think I did a great job of it for a while. And then it just wasn't enough anymore. So good that you have that awareness and can kind of watch the trend and have that feedback to know when that time is going to be right, to make the decisions that are best for you.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like I said, it's that testosterone baseline. Like, you can see it in your genes, right? Whether you're more likely to be low or high. And so even having that, like, I'm already aware of it. So I'm already like looking for it and just kind of noticing, like, okay, what can I do? Because at some point, like, I love natural supplements first, but I do think that there is a time and place for intervention. And it's it's like, that's not the part that bothers me about Western medicine, is the intervention. It's the part that we don't try to like keep ourselves healthy first
Right.
as a country. It's just, okay, feed your kids trash. Like, oh, look at the cereal with all the red 40 and who knows what else. And then, oh, they have diabetes? No way. Like,
Or
it's
behavior
crazy.
problems or ADHD focus issues, right? We don't make any connection back. That was something that when my youngest was just starting school, horrible focus and attention issues. So I took her to the neuropsych and we had to go through that whole battery of testing anyway, just for some of our other things. But, being able to see that she really only could focus time on task 2 seconds. And you look
Hmm.
at the application of that to the school setting, traditional school setting, it does not bode well. And she was already at a disadvantage. And so that was one of the very interesting things about being able to see the difference between traditional Western medicine approach and then going to an integrative doctor who is a board certified MD, but also has that, Chinese medicine, kind of functional medicine approach that she likes to utilize as well. And one of the things that she first did was test her gut, and we looked at all of her gut testing. And even though she'd always eaten very well and, given her the supplements that her body needed, almost no negligible good positive gut bacteria. So, a lot of that was from the gluten piece. She's got a very high intolerance, thankfully not celiac, but that was one of the things that this doctor said. If we can really start to work on her gut, the focus and attention piece is going to get better. And it may mean that for a little while, we do a very low dose of, some kind of a pharmaceutical that will help her focus as she's learning tools and learning ways to cope with this. But it was very interesting because we were able to keep that dosage so low compared to other kids at her same weight just by managing her diet and removing out those artificial colors, removing out gluten. And really within a week, I saw differences in her behavior and differences in her focus and attention, and some of the other physical manifestations, skin rashes and things like that, that cleared up almost instantaneously. It was wild. And she really did not stay on medicine for very long because we were able to really teach her some skills and managed it that way. But I'm the same way. I think there's a time and a place for it, and I try never to discount that we are very blessed that we have access to some of those things. But let's look at other interventions first or in conjunction with. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times that makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just love to hear success stories too whenever it comes to stuff like that, because it's always like, see, like I'm not crazy, because there's this portion of the world that gives me a hard time. My parents aren't as bad about it, but like going into this initially, they're like, oh well, she can't have that, like whatever. And it's like, no, like you guys need to hear me for a second. Like this is a very real thing. Like this is something like even if we go down to my genes, like I do really well with a high monounsaturated fat diet. I was diagnosed with MS when I was 13. Like, of course I do. Like when I learned that, I was like, duh,
Right.
because and I had done keto and I did really well on it, but I like did not do well with MCT oils, like the whole bullet coffee thing. It made me feel sick.
Right.
I don't do great with saturated fats. So like finding these keys and like allowing and then having the proof show up for people, I think sometimes is why like living by example is the hardest but most successful like story that you could have. Because outside of that, it's like they're like, okay, yeah, sure, talk whatever you
Right.
want.
Yeah.
And I
It,
think that's a lot of people like don't want to take the time, especially with their kids. And it's so hard, like in the world that we live in right now, with like, sorry, you can't have that. Like, I love you. It's not like a punishment or you didn't do anything wrong, but like, we need to eat like this. And like I said, with my son, like, I've here and there, like, he doesn't eat a ton of bread. Now since I make it, I'm not as worried about it, but it's one of those things that, like, as he's gotten older, and I'm like, do you see how you feel different? Like, he doesn't do great with traditional dairy. If it's like low heat pasteurized dairy, he's fine. But like just a regular gallon of milk at the store, it'll make him sick. And so sometimes he'd be like, can I have a milkshake? And I was like, you know how it's going to make you feel? Like, you make that decision. And there's
right.
been times where he's like, nah. And there's been other times where he's like, yeah, I just want the milkshake. And then he regrets it later.
Of course.
But it's one of those things where if we can teach our kids like how they feel in their body and then teach them like the balance of eating instead of the like, okay, yeah, you're small, I don't want you to cry, like let me just give you the treat.
Right.
And
No,
I know it's hard as parents, but
it is hard as parents, but it's that kind of thing where at some point they will adopt that onto their own, and that's what I'm
Mhm.
saying with my oldest daughter. I think she's definitely got dairy issues. We're going through a bunch of testing with her too as well. And she has been so dismissive of it because she doesn't want to have to give up those things that she loves. But now she's understanding that it doesn't make her feel great and it's not worth it. Every now and then, yeah, but same as your son, she'll do it and then just instantly regrets it because her stomach is just in knots, or, she'll get these itchy spots, psoriasis or whatever, that pop up on her elbows. And I'm like, yeah, you don't want to be the I told you so mom, but sometimes it is interesting. It takes time though. The way
Mhm.
that we live, we've been doing this for quite some time. And, when Neely was first young and we were saying no gluten and we don't want the kids to have stuff with a ton of sugar, nothing artificial, no artificial colors, it was not very well received by the grandparents. They thought we were crazy. They would sneak things when, under the guise of a treat. And this is how it's supposed to be with grandparents. And I'm like, but that's not the way that you need to care or show love for them. Like, you care for them by caring for them in the way that's going to be best. And it took a lot of conversation. It took tears and frustration, but it's so funny to see how far they've come with their own health. It's so
Mhm.
funny. My mom now, the things that she does or she tells me, and I'm like, yeah, mom, I've been telling you that for the last 20 years, but I'm so glad that you're now taking out seed oils from your diet. I'm so thrilled that that's a change that you're making, but this is something we've been saying for a while, and so it does. They look at you funny in the beginning, and then at some point when it matters to them and when they're at a place where they're ready to receive that and make those changes, then it's very fulfilling because you see how far reaching the ripple effect can be by your example, to your point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The grandparent thing.
It's a tough road.
Well, and luckily, like, and it makes me proud of my son because he's gained more self-control. And so when before it's like he'd go over there and he's like, "Oh yeah, have as many treats as you want, like
Sure.
cabinet's open." And he'd go ham and then like the next day he's got an eczema rash and I'm like, "Tell me you didn't have sugar."
Right.
Like we see the proof. But, even explaining to him his birth father has diabetes and I have a high propensity of insulin resistance, so does he. And so like just teaching him like you need to watch things like this
Right.
because like long term, his biological father does not take care of himself and is going blind because of the diabetes. I'm like things like this, if you don't address it on your own and you don't want to pay a ton of money on medicine, then this is what you're looking at. And so I think that like kind of real life example has given him the like boost to do better as well. It's okay.
You can hear dogs barking, and she's like starting the low growl. I'm like, no, 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 we're not doing this. We're not doing this today.
It's okay. I don't know if you heard mine in here a little bit ago. The bull terrier was Oscar. He was over here and he was trying to play. We call it goosing. He was trying to goose, and Lily was like, "No!" And she yelled something. I'm like, "You guys know, happens."
Sweet babies, real life.
Um, but to wrap it up, let people know where they can find you, where they can watch HR Conversations with Finn, because I love all your educational content. I truly do, but I also really I love watching your dogs.
Yes. And listen, if people follow me just for my dogs, I'm okay with that, because there's certainly accounts where the dogs are the highlight, or like their new babies, or, something cute. And I'm like, oh yeah, show more of that. I love you, but show more of that. So on Instagram, you can follow me at Warrior Fit, the number one, Warrior Fit one. I've got a Facebook community. It's just Team Warrior Fitness. If anybody is interested in that, we do education daily. We usually have a topic of education that we focus on each week, but we try to build some consistency across the month. So in August, it was all about back to school, back to basics. September, we're going to be doing more kind of sharing of favorites. So we'll have some different things in there that we're going to be sharing about. One of them will definitely be hormones. So we'll be sharing all of our favorite hormone resources in there. But if anyone's interested, they can follow me on Instagram. If anyone wants more information about anything and Instagram is not your jam, you can always just send me an email. It's just my first name, Stephanie, at warriorfit1.com. So happy to answer any questions that I can. And just really appreciate you having me on here and letting me be part of your community and your audience. I'm just so proud of all the things that you're doing, and you definitely have brought such goodness to my life and to that of my community. So I truly thank you.
Yeah, thank you for reflecting that. I'm like, but that got my heart. That was good. Thank
Of
you.
course.
Um, I do want to mention your app as well for anyone that needs like workouts to follow. There's at-home workouts as well as in the gym, correct?
Yeah.
And it's the Warrior Fit app. And they're just great. It's super great if you kind of just need a plan to get moving again. Stephanie's super fun to follow just in general. She's very real, and that's one thing that I've always loved about you. And I definitely give her a follow if you guys feel called to. And thank you
I'm
so much
actually
for
running
joining
a
me.
special that I would love to pass on to your audience as well.
Yeah.
Like you said, with my app, it is a standalone app, and get workout subscription. And that's going to give you a brand new workout every single day that you can do at home, 30 minutes or less. I'm very much about efficiency because we're busy, busy women, but you also have access to over 15 on-demand programs. So if you rather go to the gym, if you want a glute focus program, deep core is something I really work on too with a lot of my clients. 15 on-demand programs you can access at any time. You can log and track your food in there. We have a group chat of everyone who's in that community. You can chat with me just like a text message. Track your macros, a huge recipe database. We do 3 to 4 virtual classes a month. One of those is usually a virtual workout. And then one of my other coaches that works with me usually does a meditation or breath work or yoga virtual class in there. So lots of goodness in there. And for the next about 10 days, I'm offering a special. So anyone who joins the app, and you can find this linked up in my Instagram link tree, or shoot me a message and I'll send you the link. But anyone who signs up for the app, I'm going to do free custom macros and throw in my free macros 101 ebook. It is 20 pages of everything you need to know about logging and tracking your food, how you do that, how to build a sample day, and all that information. So it's about a $50 value for free. So I'd love to extend that to your audience as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah, but thank you so much for joining me today. This has been such a good conversation, and hopefully we'll get some people thinking.
Yeah, I hope so. Thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for listening to Expand the Conversation podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review of the podcast on your favorite platform. Your feedback means the world to me. If you have any questions, comments, or topic suggestions for future episodes, reach out to me on social media. I would love to hear from you. So let me know you are listening and stay updated on all things Expand the Conversation. Be sure to follow and tag me on Instagram at expandtheconversation.podcast. If you know someone who would benefit from this episode, please share it. See you next time.